Well, hello there, everybody. Kyle Nedner up here from the Indy Star, and what a night, what a game I had tonight. Anyway, it was Lawrence North falling to Brownsburg 22-21 in quite a game. A lot of emotions, obviously, after a game like that, as Brownsburg wins it and wins the regional for the first time since the 1985 season. That was the back-to-back state championships for Brownsburg at that time. And just a remarkable game, really remarkable emotions on both sides. Just a down to the wire situation that Brownsburg was able to score with 13 seconds left. Kind of a 10-yard swing pass from Oscar Fry to Sumter Bay, who took it into the end zone. And then Brownsburg, had a chance to kick the extra point, go to overtime. I talked to John Hart after the game about that. He said, "Hey, wasn't even much of a thought. We wanted to definitely go for the 2-point conversion there, and they did that. First of all, got an offsides call to kind of help out. So that put the ball at about the 1.5 1 yard line, basically, and Brownsburg then is able to bring Yosua Stevens, more of their running quarterback, into the game, and then he kind of just went in relatively easily into the end zone. That made it a 22-21 game. Brownsburg in the lead, and then actually there was an unsportsmanlike penalty call then that kind of set Lawrence North up a little bit. They were able to move the ball out to the 49, 50-yard line on the kickoff return. And then with .2, they had one play. They got it down to about the 41-yard line of Brownsburg to Davion Chandler, went out of bounds. The clock then ran out. The officials said put .2 back on the board, which I think was right. I think there was time left when Chandler went out of bounds. So they did get one more chance there to kick a field goal, but about a 48-yarder, that was probably going to be a little bit of a stretch, and Lawrence North missed it. And then, that kind of set off the celebration, obviously, for Brownsburg, who is, again, a regional champion, first time since 1985. And definitely going to be some, and I'll have a lot more on this coming, obviously, in our recap. Not the first recap, but more of a in-depth story that'll be coming out probably in the morning. But definitely some hard feelings on Lawrence North side. There was a huge penalty call. Marcus Jackson got a quarterback sack, and again, I'm gonna have to go back through all the numbers again. Everything kind of happened on the fly here, but not much time left. He got a quarterback sack, kind of threw the quarterback down, and some discrepancy. And I asked Pat Mallory after the game what was called there, and he described it as a horse collar call, and that's kind of what I was told on the sideline as well. Not from the official, but just people who kind of thought they heard or thought they knew. I thought at first it was unsportsmanlike call for throwing the quarterback down too hard, but nonetheless, that really kind of changed the whole dynamics of things. It got the ball to the 20-yard line and kind of got Brownsburg in position with plenty of time. There's about a minute left at that point. So not saying they couldn't have scored or whatever, but definitely sort of changed the flavor of things right there and allowed Brownsburg, again, it took a third down play, a swing pass, a nice call, and Sumter Bay made a nice move to get into the end zone to score, and then allow Brownsburg to go for two. And once again, like I explained, that was sort of again, Lawrence North jumped off sides. They able to get down to the 1 yard line and then punch it in from there. And quite a game. I mean, a lot to this game. It felt like Lawrence North had Brownsburg on the ropes a few different times and just not able to put it away in the grand scheme of things. So Brownsburg will now play Center Grove in the semi-state next week. Center Grove was able to move on with the 23-15 win over Warren Central. And so, yeah, I mean, Center Grove, you're a fool if you pick against Center Grove this time of year, and I guess I'm the fool because I picked Warren to win that game in our predictions this week. But again, Center Grove's going to be up for that game, and they got out to a 17-0 lead, and they're able to win that game. So I'll go through some of that as well as we talk here. And but first, want to get to Rich Torres. Westfield beats Fishers tonight, 42-28. And as I bring Rich in here, there he is.
Hey, Kyle. How are you doing, buddy?
Smiling, and looks like he's just everything's nice and easy for Rich. I'm here sitting in my car. He's living right. Wherever you are, Rich, you're doing it the right way.
Well, fortunately, I live close to Fishers High School, so I've actually made it home. I've been working on my story, but I was like, I got to give Kyle a call because we got to talk. It's 6A football, and it was, you know what? Westfield had a little bit of a scare there for a minute. They were up 21-7 at halftime, and Fishers came out in that third quarter, put up 2 touchdowns, big defensive stands too. Forced a punt on Westfield's first possession, and then a big turnover on downs. Huge plays by Nathan Ash and Emmanuel Coward on defense, getting tackles on fourth down. And it seemed like, okay, the Tigers might actually, upset the Shamrocks at home. And they end up tying the game right before the fourth quarter after those 2 touchdowns. And then the switch flipped. and Westfield remembered that, they haven't lost since September. And 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. Carson Melvin, quarterback, going to Bowling Green, showed just who he was. He finished with 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. And then Deacon King had the nail in the coffin with a 49-yard touchdown, 1 play for the final score in the fourth quarter. And, you got to give it to Westfield. Obviously their stats show that they can put up points. But they withstood a test here against a team that they handled pretty easily in the regular season. And they came back, Fishers came back and they kind of punched him in the mouth, kind of like Mike Tyson's probably doing right now, to a certain somebody. But yeah, it's, it was a really entertaining game and good for the Tigers. I know they've had a lot of adversity this year. And to put up a show like they did, even though they lost, I think they turned a lot of heads. And Westfield's just the biggest thing that stood out to me was how calm they were. Even when they were being tested, they were still calm. They stuck to the process. They put a lot of that stuff in the rear view. And, Coach Josh Miracle kind of mentioned that's their DNA, is that they have a short memory. If something bad happens, they just turn the page and move on. And that's kind of what they did in that fourth quarter. It was impressive. It really was.
Well, yeah, you knew it was going to be a different type of game than last time they played each other. That's just it's hard to blow teams out in the playoffs. There's a reason Fishers is here playing in this game, riding a lot of momentum. They beat HSC last week, and you didn't quite have the crazy game that one was, but Westfield, definitely pushed here, and I am impressed. The times I've covered Westfield, you mentioned kind of a steadiness to their team, and I think that's accurate. That's kind of how they carry themselves, and very confident team. And Rich, looking at the kind of the rundown here, Deacon King had a huge game tonight. 33 carries for 219. I mean, that's a monster night for Deacon King. But was that the difference? I mean, I kind of wondered going into it if Fishers up front, would be able to hang. That was kind of the biggest question probably from the last game coming out of that one. But sounds like Deacon King was able to kind of get it going. And I know he tacked on a 49-yarder late, but still well over 150 even before that run.
Yeah, he kind of set the tone early, and it really seemed like a replication of that regular season game. Like he was averaging about 5-6 yards per carry right out of the gate. That front line for Westfield's just big, and they're physical, and they were creating space, right off the line of scrimmage. It was systematic at first, and to the point where it was like, okay, when it was 21-7, it was like, okay, are they going to hit 40 by the end of the third quarter, more or less, just because they were just consistently running. I mean, obviously, Carson Melvin only completed 7 of 11 passes for 79 yards, so the passing game was sprinkled in, but that running attack with Deacon was just, it was pretty much the heart and soul of their offensive philosophy tonight. And yeah, I mean, he really did dictate it, which is why that turnover on downs was so big, because it seemed like, okay, maybe Fishers found the answer there. And they were able to kind of blitz in and hit those gaps and shut down the running lanes inside the tackles momentarily. But then again, you sprinkle in that passing attack with Melvin, and then he can run too. So you you have that dual threat aspect with him. And but I tell you what, Fishers, yeah, they did everything they could. I mean, John Anthony Hall had 115 yards with 8 catches. He had two tip drill passes. One was on a crucial, late down play to kind of keep their drive alive, in the third quarter. And then it was Fishers played their hearts out. Like I said, I mean, they really did. I mean, you look at Caden Hill, quarterback, 21 completions, 31 attempts, 249 yards. That's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
No interceptions, 1 touchdown. But it's just keeping pace with Westfield. Even when they scuffle just a little bit, they just pick it right back up. Much like you were mentioning with Brownsburg. It's like one of those teams. They even when they get down, or you think, okay, this is it, they find a way. They just keep putting up points. But obviously, don't bet against Center Grove though.
Well, and your game tonight kind of leads into Rich. I don't know how much you were able to talk to Josh Miracle at all about Crown Point. That's going to be their opponent next week, and I know a rematch of last year's game, a heartbreaker that they went up there, and I believe this game will be at Westfield this coming week. So big semi-state game and a rematch of last year's heartbreaker for Westfield.
Yeah, at the time we didn't know who won because they're an hour behind us, obviously. But there was mention of Crown Point. I don't think they didn't really want to say that they want them, but they, I think they alluded to whoever they're going to face. It's going to be fun. Focus that. But yeah, Josh basically just kind of wanted to emphasize the point that it's hard enough to get to this point, and they did 5 regional appearances here, straight, 5 straight. 4 regional titles now in those 5 years. They're not taking anything for granted. I think they, like you said, they understood the heartbreak aspect and not even getting past this point, obviously in one of those years too. So for them to get that opportunity, I think they're gearing up to that. And Melvin actually mentioned that being at home, he was just like getting this win on the road, being home next week. That's huge, and getting that confidence level up, obviously with a win like this with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I don't know. It'll be a fun one. I know Crown Point was putting up a lot of points last time I looked. I didn't see the final on that one, but it could be a slugfest, really.
Yeah, it was 38-21 is, I believe, that was the final score. So Crown Point moves on, Westfield moves on, and obviously Brownsburg and Center Grove. So 2 really good 6A matchups, as you would expect in the semi-state. Rich, appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the time.
All right, man.
Yep.
Well, again, appreciate Rich Torres for coming on. Westfield wins tonight 42-28, and about to talk to Brian Alt here. He covered the Lapel Lutheran game for us tonight. First, want to run through the scores just real quick. Mention all the 6A games. In 5A locally, Decatur Central beat East Central 21-16. So the Hawks will play Bloomington South next week. Bloomington South beat Castle 28-21. Another close game there. Merrillville and Warsaw both move on up north in 5A in pretty easy fashion. Look like pretty big scores on both those games. A huge game tonight in 4A. New Pal beat Chittard 28-21 in overtime. Just sounded like a great game. I was texting with Clark Wade, who was out there doing video for us, and back and forth. I know New Pal missed a field goal late there, it sounded like, but then punch it in overtime and then hold Chittard to win that one. So New Pal will play Martinsville. Martinsville beat Evansville Reitz 35-28. That sounded like a crazy one too. I believe Martinsville scored on a punt return or a punt block, something to that effect there late in the game. So we'll read more about that. Check out all the scores, by the way, IndyStar.com. We've got all the updates. And also Tri-West in 3A gets beat by Batesville. I heard Tri-West was leading that game late, or at least in the second half. Batesville ends up winning 41-34. So we're out of 3A teams in our area, at least in that class. And in 2A, and again, we'll talk to Brian again. Lutheran beat Lapel 35-0. They'll play Linton Stockton next week, who beat Brownstown Central 22-21. So that's all basically for our local teams as it stands right now. And let's bring Brian in here. Hello, Brian.
Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So you had the Lutheran Lapel game tonight, Brian, and looked like Lutheran handled their business tonight.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely look like the the 3-time champion team that they are. They didn't really waste a lot of time, getting on the board. They had a missed field goal in their opening series. They drove all the way down to the 1 and or down to the goal line rather, than they missed a field goal. But that was kind of their only real mishap on offense, for the most part of the third quarter. But kind of the story really going in was, junior quarterback Hudson Mills subbing in, getting his first varsity start. And, just under the circumstances with the starter being out due to a broken hand, he got his first start and he really shined. He did a really great job managing the game, connecting with his receivers. They really stepped up on the holes in offense. In the first quarter, they got right to work. He connected with Hudson Mills for a touchdown. This is Mason Shrum, the quarterback. He did a really good job there. Connected again with Mills there late in the second half or second quarter. And to open the second quarter, first play of the quarter, Mills had an interception return for a touchdown. So Hudson Mills did a pretty good job of working with him on both offense and defense. And on defense, man, they really turned up the heat, especially in the first half. Without question, Devin Craig was doing a lot of running and scrambling. Cameron McCaney was really relentless. Just a really, really good football player there, and a good defensive front, good offensive front for Lutheran. I know they take on Linton next week, so but they definitely look in the driver's seat to go back to Lucas Oil for sure.
Well, Brian, let me ask you. You cover a lot of you're out at high school football games a lot and cover a lot of these teams. What as you kind of look at and hear some of the scores from tonight, what kind of stood out to you? Obviously, my game was crazy, but there are also some the Decatur Central game pretty good. Anything that really stuck out to you from what you saw tonight?
I thought Center Grove's victory over Warren Central was pretty good. We talked a lot during the season, beginning of the season, like, Warren Central and Lawrence North were kind of the powerhouses that we all thought would, maybe bust through and get, a 6A state championship. But, really as November has come alive or as November has come, the Trojans have really come alive for sure. I kind of think that maybe they were kind of a sleeping giant the whole time. Just given their overall, schedule, though it was really tough with several really good quality out-of-state opponents. But for them to get a win over Warren Central, to me, would just solidify that they're definitely playing well and hitting the right stride at the right time. Lawrence North had a great season, for Pat Mallory, and I know that. That season was probably a long time coming. I know it didn't end probably the way they wanted to, but they had a really good season. You can't take anything away from that. They had a great year, and so did Warren Central. But again, Center Grove just kind of coming through here. As the weather gets a little bit cooler, they seem to be getting warmer. So we'll see what happens next week. See if they can't go back to Lucas Oil again and do well there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be, when it doesn't end with the championship, the story sometimes gets lost and, or gets forgotten. Man, Lawrence North was probably the story of high school football in our area this year. For them to go 11-0, it's such a dramatic turn from where that program was, 10 years ago, even Mallory's first half of his tenure there, as he was kind of building it up. And I know tonight, major frustration. There's a couple of calls that didn't sit well, including that unsportsmanlike call on Jackson there, or whatever it ended up being, a horse collar. I don't know if there's clarity on that exactly what the call was, but anyway, Brownsburg went out there and won it too, and credit Brownsburg for. It's been a program that and I talked to John Hart a little bit about this. He said he's never felt like they haven't performed well. It's just been they've run into some really good teams in the tournament many times, and that's definitely true. But definitely kind of I would say kind of a load off their shoulders a little bit to be able to get through and win a regional. That's just such a big step for this program. And, you definitely feel for Lawrence North too, because they did everything but win this game in a lot of ways. But you're right. A great season, I think one that'll go down, and then, and they'll have a good group coming back next year, but it's never the same exactly. You'll have different players. Obviously, Davion Chandler and some of those guys on defense won't be back. Will be gone to graduation. You only get these opportunities so many times, and that'll be heartbreaking for them. But Brian, were you surprised at all by Decatur's score? I thought they might. East Central's obviously got that championship pedigree, but looked like that one was a pretty good game too. I know I'm just asking you after you covered a different game, but obviously a good win for Decatur to be able to get through.
Oh yeah, 100%. They definitely have a lot of good players on both offense and defense. With Bo Polston and Casimir Hicks, those guys are all pretty good. A very good, well-coached program, top to bottom. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And I think it's going to be, a really good final couple weeks of the season here to determine, who winds up winning it all in every class. And it should be fun to watch.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this and popping on with me here, Brian. And again, your game was 35-0. Just thoughts on Lutheran? You think they can win it again?
Oh yeah, I think so, 100%. But Linton, they have their eyes on Linton. I talked with Coach Pash after the game. And he's always thinking one game at a time, of course. But you just look at what they have on offense and what they have on defense too. To me, they look like the early favorite right now, and they're just definitely a very highly successful program. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely think they're the favorite heading into the final couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you doing this, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on too. I appreciate it.
No problem. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Well, again, Brian Alt had and you can read all his work too from the Lapel Lutheran game tonight. Lutheran wins that one 35-0. So Lutheran, again, the three-time champs in Class 1A, are now playing in 2A, and they will be moving to the semi-state round to play against Linton Stockton. Linton Stockton, I believe, their game was a close one tonight. I'm going through here, and I just had that up here, and now can't find it again. 22-21 beat Brownstown Central. So that's a bit of I don't know if that's an upset based on Linton's tradition and history, but Brownstown had really been playing well and thought this might be their year to at least play in the semi-state, but they get beat. Also, Lafayette Central Catholic got beat tonight by Andrean 20-17. So Lafayette Central Catholic was number one in 2A, goes down to defeat Adams Central 42-7 over Eastern Greentown. Other games, Sheridan gets beat tonight by South Putnam 60-19, and Providence beats Milan 28-10. So Milan season ends against Providence. So everything seems to be kind of gearing up possibly to North Judson versus Providence in 1A, you would think. Be interesting in 2A. Could be Lutheran Andrean. That would be interesting in 2A potentially. Adams Central is also still, they've lost the last 3 years to Lutheran in 1A championship. Now, they're finally, maybe get through in 2A now, and they have to see the same team over again potentially. So that would be tough. In Class 3A, Lures beat Maconaquah 31-28, and Garrett beat Knox 41-40. Wow. In the north half of 3A. So some wild games in 3A. Batesville, like I said, beat Tri-West 41-34, and the Heritage Hills over North Harrison 50-7. So it may not matter what the rest of 3A does. Heritage Hills is just really, really good this year, and they always are good, but looks like a chance for them to possibly get through and win a state championship. In 4A, Mishawaka beat New Prairie 21-7. East Noble over Huntington North 52-17. New Pal beat Chittard 28-21. Again, that game was in overtime. And Martinsville beat Evansville Rights 35-28. And so you'll have Martinsville and New Pal playing against each other next week in the southern half of 4A. And in 5A, again, Decatur Central beat East Central, our local team. Decatur Central 21-16 in that one. That was played at Decatur tonight. So let's see if we got some other details. Bo Poston had 2 TD passes in that win for Decatur Central, and let's see, 3 field goals by East Central in the second half. And that, let's see, Polston had a 45-yard pass to Carter. Not sure how they got that last. Not sure how they got that last touchdown, but Decatur Central wins it 21-16. Again, you'll find out more information at IndyStar.com. I'm kind of going off the fly here a little bit, but and then the Center Grove game, 23-15. So Center Grove, Paul Shepard had coverage of that, and we'll have more on that game as well. But Center Grove wins. They got ahead 17-0 in that one, so a really good start. I know Warren felt like, talking to those guys yesterday, like, hey, we need to be able to, rush the passer, force maybe some quick throws and get some, get some plays that are interceptions potentially. And I guess apparently that didn't happen for Warren, at least early in that game. And it looked like they righted the ship a little bit as Warren was able to get that to 17-6 by halftime and 23-15 at the end of the third quarter, but then unable to do any more with it. So Chaz Corley had a 27-yard touchdown reception to make that 23-15. But then Warren did not score again after that. Neither did Center Grove, but had done enough up to that point to put the game away. Center Grove only had 89 passing yards and a couple interceptions, and running the ball looked like didn't have a ton of rushing yards either. So interesting how that game went down. I don't know if they had actually Drake McClurg, so that's what happened. He had a 76-yard punt return that made it 17-0. So that helps, obviously. So and then like I said, they were able to get another touchdown in the second half. Browning had an 8-yard touchdown, also had a 1-yard touchdown run. So it looks like Browning played he's been a linebacker for Center Grove, but playing more at running back. I saw earlier this season he played some at running back against LN, maybe going that more physical style runner as we get into November here. Eric Moore always seems to have something up his sleeve a little bit extra, and they figure out ways to win late in the season for sure. But again, just to kind of wrap up here, my game was, maybe the game of the night. It really felt like Lawrence North several times had Brownsburg kind of on the ropes. I mean, it was you throw it up to those receivers. Sales and Chandler both had big games, and Brownsburg able to do just enough, get some turnovers that were timely off tip passes, and Jameer Pendleton made a nice play on an interception off a tip pass. And Brownsburg able to withstand. They missed the defense kind of held up when it needed to, forced LN to try to take a field goal there late with just under 2 minutes left, a 43-yard field goal that missed, and that kind of kept them just in the game. And then Oscar Fry came back in at quarterback, did a nice job hitting some short passes, even ran a couple times, and then kind of mixed in Yosua Stevens in there, and Stevens gave him a big lift, and I wrote a little bit about that, and I'll have more obviously. But when they needed a spark, he really came in. He was fresh and just looked fast. He was as fast as the LN guys, and that made a big difference, I think, to kind of got that game to 14-all in the third quarter. And after Brownsburg offense hadn't done much for a while, that speed of Lawrence North is for real. And John Hart said, after the game, like, man, that's a great team that we just beat, and certainly was. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be dissecting this and kicking themselves over some things that happened, but really a good Lawrence North team that had a great season, finished 11-1 when it's all said and done, but really a good team. So again, appreciate you joining me here. If you're watching this later, appreciate you checking it out. And again, check out all of our stuff. I need to get the writing here, but thanks again for coming on. We'll have more obviously coming at IndyStar.com and leading into a semi-state week. But great night here at Brownsburg. It was 22-21. Again, Brownsburg wins it over Lawrence North in a wild one, right down to the last second. 0.2 seconds, it comes down to the wire. LN missed the long field goal. It was kind of a desperation attempt at that point. But again, a lot of emotions on both sides, and Brownsburg gets through for the first time into the semi-state, first regional title since 1985. So again, thanks again for joining me here, and we'll talk to you again next time. Thank you.